Hi, guys. Welcome to the first long distance episode of the Vulnerable Podcast. If the audio is terrible, just know that I'm in Puerto Rico and Daniela is in Ottawa, Canada. So we did have to film this through Skype. But I'm Anastasia Gabriel Flores, and today I'm going to be interviewing Daniela Figueroa, and she is studying international development and globalization at the University of Ottawa. She's a first-generation Canadian with a Latin American background, and she really just wanted to share and give advice to anyone that's ever experienced, racist comments or stereotyping from peers, and just how she's learned to address these issues in her day-to-day life. So, hi, Daniela.
Hi. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, of course.
So I was born in Regina, Saskatchewan. Right now I currently live in Ottawa, Ontario, but growing up in a very rural neighborhood, it was interesting because I didn't really feel any different. I was growing up when I was young. When I entered kindergarten and everything, it felt I guess for children a lot of the time, you don't really see race or ethnicity.
Right, exactly.
Which is interesting growing up as it becomes apparent to us because of everything. So yeah, growing up there, I had no issues. I didn't really feel any different than anyone else. But then I came to Ottawa, and for me it started really in middle school. Even though when I was younger, my parents actually happened to cut, I hadn't seen Dora yet, and neither had my parents. They actually cut my hair like Dora. I have a photo where I have the bangs and the kind of bob and everything. And my neighbor had pointed it out to me that kind of like the Dora haircut, but we didn't know.
Yeah.
But then after 8th grade, when I was starting to be called Dora all the time, then I went into high school. And even my friends who aren't my friends now, they used to call me Mexico, and they used to ask me, do you speak Mexican? And they would tell me that, my favorite food must be tacos. It's just
yeah.
I don't know, for me now, I couldn't imagine someone close to me saying that to me. Something so offensive in that way. And I don't think they would be caught saying that now.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the way or where I'm growing up that it seems that society's maybe transitioned, but
yeah. How did you, so I forget, were you in high school around that time, or were you still in junior high?
So at that point I had gone into high school. So for us, middle school is 7th, 8th grade, and then 9th grade until 12th grade till you graduate. That's high school.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my high school more or less.
And did anyone kind of, do you think you had somewhat of a support system then? Or how did you maybe get through those comments,
Honestly, I just have, a very strong mother who just told me, just keep, I guess, push it, don't accept it. Don't normalize it in that way. She'd be tell them no.
Right.
No, I'm not Mexican.
Yeah.
I speak Spanish. What you're saying is racist, and it's not okay.
Yeah.
So I just kept going. It would really get to me sometimes because it's these were two white women telling this to me.
Yeah.
And they would laugh, so they thought it was funny and it was okay. And like you said, right, that just it shows to me the way people have also raised their kids in that way. That people do think it's okay to say those things, and it's not.
And it could be hard
really,
too.
It was just my mom.
Right, because in high school for me, when I was getting bullied and stuff, I would go to the principal. That was just, I could push it aside sometimes, and then when I would go to the principal, she would even not do anything because the family of the person that bullied me was well known and stuff. So for you, did you maybe try to I guess I'm trying to give advice for anyone listening, or younger women that maybe
I haven't had any for example, when I was bullied in elementary school, I didn't have necessarily a good experience when I went to a figure of authority like yourself that you talked about just now, the principal. My mom had done that when I had just moved here and I was getting bullied. She went to the principal, who at the time for some reason happened to be teaching one of my classes. I think because we didn't have a teacher for it or something. And then so without my mom knowing that, the next day or something in class, she made me go up in front of the class and point out who like I was feeling kind of like bullied by. Yeah, and I was 8 years old, and then my mom found out about that and was just so upset. So yeah, I don't know. I think sometimes maybe it's better to try and handle it yourself in that way. It also builds character a lot, because at one point I had to tell the bully off because like
that
really
is
no one else
true.
was going to do anything about it. And my mom was my support system through that. Like she made me rehearse with her what I was going to say, because it was more like verbal bullying in that way.
It's so important
to do.
Yeah, it's so important too to have that support system, you know, to help you get through that.
Yeah, so that's like, I think that would be my advice in that way, to find someone that'll support you through it and like guide you on how to handle something.
And even now that you're in university, do you still see that sort of thing, or do you feel like once, you know, people are older and more mature, it's, I guess, in our generation now, do you think things are better and they've progressed, or?
Well, for me, I found my experience got a lot better when I went to university. So that's when I really realized, like, oh wow, like this isn't normal. Like, not you know what I mean? It's not something that goes on everywhere. It's not okay for people to say those things.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just like those racialized comments. Like I'm not sure. Maybe it's the people I'm around in that way, because my degree is really centered around kind of like being inclusive and about equality and gender equality and like I think maybe just because I study international development, maybe it's like my peers that I'm around that have similar values to mine, compared to like maybe the people I was around in high school.
Yeah.
But I would also hope that maybe society has progressed in some way. But like even now, I have experienced racist comments towards me. It's funny because there was someone last semester that because I had really long hair for quite a while. It's also like a Latin stereotype, I find. But it's funny, the moment you cut your hair, it's like Dora. Like, that's Dora.
I know, it's like, is that the only Latina y'all know is Dora?
Like, that's the thing, like, that's the figure, or like the person that they like relate us to.
Right.
And I don't know, you know, it's sad to say that, like, I would hope so. I've met like amazing people in university, and I think that's really helped me like surround myself with like people who have the same goals and ambitions as I do, and values, of course, which is really helpful.
Right.
But yeah, the being called Dora this year, which I'm in my 4th year now, so I had 3 years before this, which it was fine, like, didn't experience any racist comments or anything, and then this year, the moment I cut my hair short, it just, and it's funny because this time it wasn't a white woman, it was someone that was black. It was like, okay, like, you know, we need to help each other. We can't be like saying things like, I mean, we're all we're minority populations.
What advice would you give to anyone who maybe would have gone through your situation? I'm sure many have that maybe don't have a support system and don't have a principal to go to. How do you think you got through everything? You said you kind of went through it mentally and overcame that within yourself, right?
Yeah, so for me, I try and like I've always really embraced my culture, and I'm proud of it. I've like always wanted to know more about my culture. I've gone to Chile quite a few times, and like I'm proud of it. And I think you should be proud of being Latin. Like that's your history and that's your culture, and it makes up part of your identity. So for me, I found power through that. I think just by like embracing my like part of my identity in that way, but also just not accepting those things because they're not right. Like, so if you feel that someone's saying something that's racist towards you, you should call them out on it.
So speak up
because
for yourself.
Speak up for yourself in that way. I think the more you address it, the more like I guess it's kind of shaming people in a way. Like, you need to shame people of their comments in that way.
Right, especially in a large setting, you know? You know, when you speak out in a large setting and then people are all suddenly like, oh, you know, it's like kind of good. And then
like that's the thing, make a scene. Like I don't know, because it's not okay. And the thing that, like, we're literally in 2020 and people are still
I know
saying these things.
Yeah.
It's not okay. Like, you have to, like, make people realize what they're saying is wrong and that, like, it really can't be, like, it shouldn't be said.
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, like, I guess, as you said, like, really standing up for yourself and speaking up is just, like, the key. Right. So, like, fighting this, like, constant battle against, like, racial discrimination and, like, the comments associated and stereotypes associated with that.
And I guess just, you know, looking up to artists or, you know, anyone that can kind of be a role model for you.
I've really, like, all of the things that have come out more recently, I found, whether it be, like, through Netflix, like, really media platforms. So, like, for example, like, I love Jane the Virgin. Like, I love that show.
I've seen it. It's on Netflix.
Yeah, like, I find that show great. I love that it's, and even, like, what else can I think of? Even, like, Orange is the New Black. Like, there's so many characters in it that are, like, from Latin backgrounds.
Diverse,
I think
very
that's
diverse.
so important. And I haven't seen that really up until, like, within the last decade, of course. Maybe it's also because I've grown up, like, a bit more, right? So I've, like, been exposed to more things like that. Because, you know, like, I'm not going to be watching Orange is the New Black when I'm, like, 5 years old.
That would be interesting.
So,
yeah.
But I think that's one way, like, to find strength in something and, like, be proud of your identity is, like, to support things like that.
Yeah, make your own support system and stand up for yourself. And I think that's all we really can do. I mean, inform one person at a time and take it day by day. And once you really build that character for yourself and have that strong head on your shoulders, you'll, like, understand that nothing can kind of get in your way, you know, when it comes to, like, anything.
You kind of build yourself up and, like, you build, like, your own strength in that.
To where it becomes, like, not even about racism anymore. It could be, like, literally anyone commenting anything at you and you're like, no worries, I got this. Like, I was built for this. So I think it can really make us all empowered in a sense. I know it's made me, I guess, stronger over the years, which is good, even though at the time you look back when you're younger and you're like, oh, you know, those girls don't have to go through it, or whatever the case may be. But
oh my god, I always wanted blue eyes and, like, blonde hair. And then, like, I feel like finally once I, like, got into high school and stuff, I was like, no, like, this is cool. Like, I'm Latin.
Literally, there's, like, a pivotal moment. I know. There's, like, a pivotal point when you start to love everything that you once hated about yourself. Like, with my hair, literally, I think it was my sophomore year of high school, I stopped straightening my hair. Keep in mind, I didn't even straighten them. I got bangs and they're, like, all shriveled.
I love it, though. I love curls. But I wish I had, like, more curl in my hair. I don't have as much. My mom gets quite a bit of, like, curl, but I just don't. I think my dad probably, like, his genes took that out from me.
That's literally where I got my curls from, my dad. But I would get picked on him so much, and so I'd straighten the heck out of my hair. And now that I look back at it, I'm like, oh, why did you do that? You had, like, beautiful hair. And I guess my sophomore year of high school, I found to really love it. And, you know, it's like, it's okay to stick out sometimes, even if not everyone has to look like you, or, you know, finding that representation through TV shows or whatever you kind of need to make yourself, I guess, feel good. But yeah, it's crazy how it's just like that one moment when we're like, okay, we're good with our, like, raccoon eyes. My mom calls them that. Yeah. Our big brown eyes and our dark features. But yeah. And
I think, like, even though it sounds like cliche at the end of it, like, you're really not alone in your experiences. You might feel like it. However, it's quite common for things like that to go on.
You know, even with this experience and it all just, like, going into fruition at the end of us being like, we can kind of take on anything now because we went through all this. But
that's the thing, yeah, like, it really gives you, like, a sense of power like no other in that way, like, internally, like, self-love too. And I think now, like, we've seen, I guess, throughout, like, the past, I'm not going to say decade because I think that's stretching it, but maybe last 5 years, we've seen, like, I've seen a lot more diversity, whether it be in TV shows, talk shows, and yeah, I think that's, like, really kind of helped my, like, self-love in that way, because it's like, wow, like, I'm part of this, like, community. I had a class on international development issues in Africa, more or less, but I think this can be applied anywhere, really, this lesson. So my group and I, we had to do a project on like fighting the single story of Africa, because a lot of the time, just like we experience kind of this, like we're all associated kind of with Mexico for some reason. That's like the point. At least from a Western perspective, Africa is generally looked at as like a whole, when it has like so many countries and so many different cultures. It can't be like a single story. Like calling every girl that cuts her hair short that's Latin Dora, like that doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Sure, maybe there are stereotypes and they can be true, but like they're not all true all the time. So I think it's really important to fight in that way.
Yeah.
These single stories. So making that apparent to your children, I think, is really important, saying that these stereotypes are not really representative of a whole population, and different populations with different cultures and different practices. So that was something, like a lesson that I got from that was really important. And I think it can be applied like on a global scale. It's not necessarily like just for like Latin America or just for Africa. Like I think in an Asian context as well, even in like a North American, as we've seen, like you just said, like you're half French and half Mexican, but like you're American, right?
Yeah.
And then like I'm Canadian, however, like my background is completely Chilean.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, like how that can probably put things really into perspective for like children growing up in that way.
Yeah.
Especially at that point, they don't really see like race, which I think is so important.
It's important to show your kids at a young age good representation, because that way it'll just stick and there's no awkward like grocery store moments or anything like that.
No, when they're don't say that. No, it's really important to like educate your kids growing up, because that's something like that's where you create the basis of their principles, morals, and values.
Exactly.
And that'll be carried on throughout their whole life. So
exactly.
And I think for us, it's really, I hope that our generation, as it seems, is like a lot more accepting and a lot more diverse in that way, and accepting of diversity.
Yeah. And I feel like honestly our generation is really pushing, I guess, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I feel like we're pushing kind of all of the norms, you know,
for sure,
to change
certain
things. So I'm kind of glad with how it is definitely gradual, but I'm glad we're kind of somewhat going in the right direction, and that a majority of us do think like certain things are not correct. I think we're doing more of our own research.
Like now with the internet and everything, we can mobilize in that way, and it's shown. It's really made a big difference. It's like that's a resource that like they didn't have like 50 years ago, you know?
Right, because they would all just watch the TV, the same TV, everyone.
Now that I think about it, like I don't know what I would really do without the internet in that way, because it's such like a good way to support like social justice and advocacy.
And I think it's nice to share your own views on the internet as well, like even on Instagram or through stories, or just like to make sure you're following the right celebrities too, because they have such big platforms. And
this is really true as well.
We were talking about that in my mass comm class, and I think it is very important to just make sure you're following the people who you have the same beliefs and morals as they do, because they're gonna share that everywhere.
That's the thing. It's like you want to surround yourself with people who share the same values and principles as you, or else like you're just supporting something, right, that you don't align with in that way. Right. And like you said, they have so much like pull right now on everything. But like I think people really do appreciate that when you do share your views on something, it's so pressing. Yeah. Or like on any like matter that's, I guess, going on in the world at that point. Like I've had people reach out to me for like just reposting something about like social advocacy that like someone else had posted. They just reach out and say thank you, like that they really appreciate like seeing all this, because you are really giving, like you're forwarding the access to these things for people. Yeah. So more people are aware then.
Yeah, that's great, because when my friends share certain things, if I don't understand it, I'll just DM them, and then they'll kind of teach me something that I didn't know before. And I think that can definitely just change the way we go about things, just being open and conversing with one another. That's all we can really do.
And that's another thing. It's like stereotypes come from something that are like, it's the unknown, really. It's like the fear of the unknown. In that way, I feel like they're derived from, in a way. So it, like they classify like a whole population into like one like certain dynamic, and it's that's the thing. The more we speak about things, and the more like we ask questions and communicate about it, the more those like fears and unknowns go away. I'm not sure in like your classes, but especially in my Africa class, like a big issue came up about like my professor tried to address like the issue of race. Like it's a very kind of touchy subject. Question like regarding like this overall like theme, and just no one would answer. Like we would all just sit there. What do you say? Like for me, like within an African context, like I don't, for myself at least, I don't feel comfortable having an opinion on some of these things, just because like I don't feel like I'm able to, like, or I should. Right?
I guess it can be harder if you. Oh, sorry. I guess it can be harder if you don't come from, you know, someone's background. You feel like you don't even have a say. I know sometimes I won't even speak on things if I can't relate or don't have the information.
I generally try not to.
Yeah. I think it's important to hear people's stories, which is why I'm so glad that you came on and we could talk about this. I was honestly really nervous because you know, talking about this can be very difficult, but thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I think it's good to have an individual perspective too, because it makes it, I think, more like digestible for someone in that way, to be like, oh, okay, like, it's not just me that's going through this, or, you know, these things still do happen. Yeah, this is the impact it has.
Yeah, and just sticking up for one another, you know, wherever you are. If you hear something you do not agree with around you, stick up for someone else, you know. Yeah, and you don't have to be from the same background for you to do so. No. You know, if something's wrong, it's wrong, period. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode with Daniela. I had so much fun talking to her. Let me know what you're up to on the Vulnerable Podcast Instagram, because I've honestly been watching an insane amount of The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. It is so freaking good. So yeah, let me know what you're up to. Give me some ideas. Hang in there. I'll see you guys every Sunday on Apple and Spotify. I said Spotify. Spotify. Bye.